Business Report. I'm Shilpa Kannan in Delhi. Coming up in this week's program.
A boost for India-Iran trade. Tehran is curbing some of its nuclear activities in return for partial relief on sanctions. What will that mean for bilateral trade ties? The political outliers in elections. Not afraid to flaunt how Indian consumers urge to splurge is boosting the sales for luxury retailers. High street sales are booming too. Marks & Spencer tells us why India is their new priority market.
Our plans are to get to 80 stores by 2016, which then would make it the largest number of stores anywhere outside of the UK internationally.
And finally, how one Indian company is helping actors get closer to their dreams.
Recently, Iran reached an interim deal on its nuclear program with 6 major world powers led by the United States. Tehran has agreed to curb some of its nuclear programs in exchange for partial relief on sanctions. This has been welcomed here in India, which shares a deep cultural and economic relationship with Iran. But what does the deal really mean on the trade front? From Mumbai, Sameer Hashmi has this report.
A historic agreement that could change the global business sentiment. And like many countries, India too is expecting to benefit from the interim deal.
Iran was the second biggest supplier of oil to India until the sanctions came into effect, forcing many companies like this one, which sell directly to consumers, to cut down on imports. In fact, some of them had cut down so much that they were importing less than what they were actually allowed. But now some of these firms are planning to start buying more oil from Iran once again.
India is also hoping that its overall fuel subsidy bill will fall, as international oil prices have shown signs of dropping since the deal was announced. And oil is the biggest item on India's import bill.
Our import of oil is typically not very price sensitive. So even when prices were slightly higher, we are not being able to reduce the quantity we demand. Now, given that prices might actually settle slightly softer, we might actually see the benefit on the current account side in terms of a lower import bill.
India had also become one of the biggest exporters of agri and commodity products like rice and spices to Iran ever since strict sanctions were imposed on the Persian Gulf nation. This factory based in Mumbai exports spices to Iran. But with sanctions now eased, some exporters are worrying about facing tough competition from other countries that might be interested in doing business with Iran.
It's not going to be easy for Indian exporters, especially the traders of commodities, rice and soya, which constitutes of about the maximum chunk of Indian exports, to compete with the international businessmen who are going to come into action once the sanctions are seized. Some of the traders were demanding a premium up to 20% on the products, which was a huge chunk of money for Indian exporters.
But all exporters are not worried. Many see opportunities in other sectors like auto components and engineering goods that would be in demand as Iran starts to revive its automobile industry. But for now, Indian businesses are hoping that the interim deal will get extended beyond the initial 6 months so that they can really see some long-term benefits. So will India now start importing more oil from Iran like it used to before the sanctions came into effect? I caught up with Neelam Deo, who's a former Indian diplomat and the director of Gateway House, a foreign policy think tank.
It does not, I think, mean that immediately, but over the long run, assuming that either the interim agreement reaches a final agreement after 6 months, or that even if they are not able to arrive at a final agreement, the interim agreement can be extended by mutual consent. So eventually we would be able to import more oil from Iran.
But wouldn't it be a risk for India to increase oil imports, given that Iran has had volatile relations with the Western world and the situation could change again?
You know, There is a risk in anything that is done, but this is a decision, an agreement in which the uncertainties are towards the positive. So certainly I think there will be discussions will begin already towards increasing the import of oil, because our actual imports from this country have fallen by half to what they used to be before all these sanctions came in. We will be very interested to talk to them about more project exports from India, more product exports from India. You know, Iran is potentially a very rich country. Today it has a per capita income of just over $7,000, but if its oil and gas exports reach their potential, it's like Germany or something, you know, it's a similar population and the per capita income could climb. But today per capita income, gross domestic product is 1/6 of what Germany has. So Indian business looks at Iran and sees a potentially very wealthy country, a big market for us.
Now I want to talk to you about Chabahar port, which is located in southeast Iran. How crucial is this project for India, because India is planning to invest in this project and it has been trying to do that for the last so many decades. Do you think this deal will finally pave way for India to go ahead and invest?
The project hasn't moved forward is a consequence of lackadaisical attitudes on both sides. On our side in India as well as the Iranian government, which has had other things to worry about as well. This would be a hugely beneficial project for us. It would provide us access to Afghanistan. It would also provide us access to overland to Central Asia. Eventually there is talk about building a rail line so cargo can move cheaply, quickly.
Will this deal in any way revive the Iran-Pakistan-India pipeline project? Because this project again has been under discussion for more than 2 decades.
Well, I think that project is, the difficulties have more to do with Pakistan and the internal problems of Pakistan. Yeah, I think the talks can revive easily. Much of the project, the dimensions of this project are by now well known because we have all been talking about it for so long. And if Pakistan is able to give security guarantees, I don't see why it should not move ahead.
More than 2/3 of Indians are below the age of 35 and their vote is more significant in this election than ever before. Recognizing this, political parties have been hiring young people from various backgrounds, corporate and rural, to bring in their unique and independent perspective. The battle for votes has begun. This is just a state election here in Delhi, but it's one that could set the tone for next year's general election. So the campaigning too is centered here in the national capital with the face-off between political parties. But what's different this time round is the role of the outliers or the volunteers who are influencing what political parties do both here on the ground and in the cyber world.
Inside the war room of the opposition Bharatiya Janata Party, digital campaigning is top priority. Manned by young professionals who've all taken time off their jobs to volunteer as campaign workers, the party has deployed them to blog, surf, monitor the messages sent out online. But what skills do they bring?
I used to work for KPMG for quite a few years, worked across India, globally in many nations, including China, Africa, Middle East. I basically bring strong analytical skills. So my specialty in management consulting was turning around businesses. And I believe I can do the same for political parties and maybe turn around the nation and at least play a big part in that.
All of the young people who are individually successful in their lives in India, most definitely abroad, want to see India pull as a team also and maybe chart a different path from what was happening in the past.
On the ground too, volunteers are helping out with campaigning and gathering support. This is the hub of the Aam Aadmi or Common Man's Party led by a former civil servant, Arvind Kejriwal. Supporters have come from all over India and even from overseas. And they're hard at work raising funds and deploying the party's limited resources.
The first obviously is financial, because we've got our networks and we can speak credibly to people that have deep pockets. The second one is strategic and policy making, where again we have exposure to in-depth reports and insights. The third is execution and operations. And the fourth, I think, which has been a game changer for a party which is like a disruptive technology, is technology itself.
It's not about people, it's not about resources, it's about how much corruption is there in governance, which defines the difference between a third world and a first world country. I've seen a lot of examples in Hong Kong, Singapore, where clean governance has provided so much to the citizens. So to me, being part of a process where you help clean up the governance aspect, clean up the corruption aspect of it, is an extremely important topic.
Driving up the tempo, as the general elections draws closer, volunteers will have a bigger role to play. Across party lines, people who are not regular professional politicians are stepping in to communicate the party ideals and policy to the masses.
What banking world or the financial services world taught me is that end of day there is something called as due diligence, there is something called as discipline, and there is something called as, pure and simple, not ever being what I call as delusional about the challenges you face. You can never live in denial. So you have a portfolio, you've got to know whether it's going up or going down. You can't tell your client, you can't give a spin to a fact. So I think that's been the biggest learning in politics, that you got to be able to communicate, but you never ever lie, you never ever distort.
Nearly 150 million young people will qualify to participate in this election. It's a huge vote bank that politicians can't afford to ignore. Political parties too are feeling the need for professional help in wooing the new generation of voters.
It's time for a short break now, but don't go away, because coming up in part 2, India's luxury market, why consumers here are not afraid to flaunt. Welcome back to India Business Report. I'm Shilpa Kannan in Delhi. Well, as the global economy has slowed, emerging markets like India are looking more attractive than ever for retailers, particularly luxury retailers who are finding a growing number of consumers here who are willing to spend. So I spoke to a few consumers and retailers here in Delhi, India's biggest luxury market.
Anyone seen popular bags? Combining sushi with shopping in the country's biggest luxury mall in posh South Delhi. Many, like Nidhi Sarin, come here with friends for what's popularly called a kitty party in India. Elite women get together over lunch and pool money to spend on luxury handbags or shoes. Catering to them, several international brands have opened stores here now.
Now it's so much easier because I can just walk into a store, see all the options and just pick up what I like. And it's definitely made our lifestyles better because obviously there's more variety and more chances to buy. You're not restricted to a particular holiday.
As Western markets are slowing down, luxury brands are aggressively pushing to be here in India. The good news for them is that the number of rich individuals who can afford all of this is actually growing here, which means they're likely to spur demand in the near future.
Helping people spend money on the right products is this concierge service for the rich.
Good afternoon, speaking to Karan. How can I assist you?
For the right price, Quintessentially is a company that can help you book a private show in Paris, get a dinner table in London, or get tickets for a game in New York.
I'll just place the order.
They can even send their managers to shop for the bag of your choice. While Western customers now want to be seen as thrifty as their economies are slowing down, Indians are still coveting all things luxurious.
In India, the amount of conspicuous consumption, guilt-free consumption, I mean, that is still rising. I mean, it's a newer phenomena. So typically, Indians are of the opinion that, you know, they have to see that part of their lifestyle, and so that's a massive difference between them. We still wear it. We wear it on our sleeves.
We're talking about fashion, show off.
There are still a few barriers to this growth. India lacks high streets, so retail space is limited. Yet the luxury market has witnessed a robust growth of 15% over the last 3 years and is now estimated to be worth nearly $8 billion. But high import duties on luxury products are worrying retailers.
Pricing, of course, is one of the main issues when you come to this market. So we try to balance the price gap versus other regions, like especially Europe and London, where Indian likes and loves to buy. But it's true that the import duties is going to stop or, reduce and slow down the possibility for Indian customers to buy in their home country. And very much they are going to affect the economy in India.
Unlike their parents, India's young favor spending over saving. There is a growing breed of a new kind of customer here. Entrepreneurs, professionals and the rural rich who are discovering luxury for the first time and are not afraid to flaunt. Demand for all kinds of products is expected to soar, and luxury retailers will be waiting to tap into the new Indian Maharajas.
Well, it's not just luxury brands, but high street retailers too are on an expansion spree. This week, India approved a plan by Swedish fashion chain H&M to invest $115 million here. Existing retailers too, like UK's Marks & Spencer, say India is their new priority market.
I met up with Venu Nair, Managing Director of Marks & Spencer Reliance India, and began by asking him why India is their new priority market.
India is a very important market for us internationally, and we have been having good performance coming out of our stores in India. Going forward, we intend to establish a leadership position in India, and we will do that by expanding aggressively across the various cities in India. Our plans are to get to 80 stores by 2016, which then would make it the largest number of stores anywhere outside of the UK internationally.
You are among the first retailers to set up shop here, but do you think you've kind of missed out on the opportunity of being the first mover in the market? What went wrong?
The first 7 or 8 years of our business in India, we had got positioned as a very premium retailer, which was obviously the wrong position for us to be in. We formed the joint venture in 2008 with Reliance Retail, and that was based on the opportunity that we saw that exists in the market in India. And since then, we have had fantastic growth that's been coming through from our stores. We have been growing very nicely in the country. For example, in the first half of this year, we've grown by 28%, and all the business units that we cater to in India across menswear, women's wear, lingerie, kids wear and beauty have had double-digit growth.
But what is your India strategy? Because in the 12 years that you've been here, now there are far more brands competing with you, brands like Zara, Mango, H&M is soon to set up shop here. So do you think you can compete with them?
We compete with these retailers across all the markets that we are in. We do think we have got our positioning absolutely right now. We are a middle-class retailer, and that is exactly what our positioning is in India now. We have aligned our prices to be competitive in that segment, and that is what has been fueling the growth that we are seeing in this market. The advantage that we have had over some of these other retailers that you talk about is that we still got a head start over them, and we have already started going into a lot more cities than any of them would be going to in the near future.
It's interesting to me that you say you're a brand for middle-class people, but do you mean middle class in the UK or middle class in India? Surely the two are very different.
We are still a middle-class retailer in India as well. So yes, as to what spectrum within the middle class could be an argument, but if you look at the size of the Indian middle class, it's 250 million, 300 million, depending on which data you believe. It's a big segment, but we definitely cater to that middle class segment, and our prices are aligned to cater to that segment.
Venu Nair from Marks & Spencer Reliance India there. In the latest in our series on innovative startups, we meet Quick Audition this week, a Mumbai-based company that creates a web platform for film and entertainment artists to create showreels online.
I am Parag Mulgund, founder of QuickAudition.com. I'm basically IT professional. A year back, we introduced Quick Audition, a platform, online platform for the aspiring actors and experienced actors to get exposed to the industry across India. We as a Quick Audition conduct thousands of auditions, and we have experienced casting directors who sit and select the right artists who can be catered to various projects. We introduced a subscription model for artists, at the same time production houses. When this idea stuck to my mind and I discussed with my friends who are also IT professionals, they liked it and they came forward to fund this particular project. So along with 4 IT professionals, I also invested in this particular project, and we started this particular project.
Inspector Saab.
It's almost 1 year now, and whatever investment we had, that would suffice for only the development of the product. So we are at this stage, and we are going to the market now, and we need a really huge amount of investment, because we want to go across India to conduct auditions. I'm feeling very challenging when it comes to getting the investors, because it's a very new concept to what we are introducing to India, and investors are reluctant to invest in this case. See, if you look at the film industry, thousands of feature films are made, and there is hundreds of thousands of TV programs are happening across India, and there is a real scarcity of the right candidate or the good skill set wherein industry is craving for. So we feel Quick Audition is really addressing that challenge which at this moment the market is facing.
That was the latest in our series on innovative startups. That's all the time we have for you this week, but do join us again next week. In the meantime, check out our website bbc.com/business, or for more India news, bbc.com/India. I'm Shilpa Kannan in Delhi, and from everyone on the team, thanks for watching. Goodbye.